This video is sponsored by Otto Audio. Hi there, Perfecto de Castro here and welcome to my channel. I hope you're having a great day. The 1111 amp sim from Otto Audio is the heaviest amp plugin available right now. However, in this video, we will explore more than just heavy tones. And I will show you why the Otto Audio 1111 amp sim might be the only amp plugin you'll ever need. Here we go. Okay, let's dive right in with some music. In the first track, you will hear the 1111 as intended, brutal and heavy. I used it on the rhythm guitar, the lead guitar, and even on the bass. And in the second track, I will use it in the most non-metal scenario possible. Okay, here we go. Enjoy. Now for the next few minutes, we'll take a closer look at all the tones that I used on both tracks, and I'll show you how I dialed them in on the 1111 amp sim. And if you want to follow along, you can download the 14-day free trial of the 1111 from the Otto audio website. I will put a link in the video description. And if you decide to go for it and get the full version, then use discount code Perfecto40 for 40% off. Enjoy. Now let's start with the bass tone. I'm using my trusty Warwick 5-string thumb bolt-on. For the bass tone, I started with the clean bass preset. As with any new piece of gear, be it hardware or software, it's best to explore the presets first. As you can see from the drop-down, we have all these preset categories, and I just went to bass and selected clean bass preset. And here's how that sounds. So it's a grindy bass. It's clean enough for metal. I did turn down the preamp a lot more than the actual preset. That way you can hear more of the bass tone. And if you want it even cleaner, you can turn down the input gain. Now let's hear some of the other bass presets real quick. So clean and loud. Oh, whoa, that is loud. Hold on. How about bass thunder? This is also a good test of how firm the 1111 amp sim's low end is, because this is actually a 5-string bass and I am thumping on the low B string. And it's not just, you know, flubbing out like that. Okay, next guitar part. For the heavy rhythm guitars, I used my Ibanez Universe 7-string. As you've already heard during the bass demo, the 1111's low end stays nice and lean and tight regardless how low you go. Now for the heavy rhythm, I used the Future Junt preset. Now, as you can see in my Logic project, I did not record a lot of tracks. And that goes to show you guys that you don't have to double everything to make your music sound huge. Now, even though the rhythm guitar sound doubled, it was actually just played in one pass. And I used the 1111's stereo widening effect. Okay, now I'm gonna hold the chord and I'll switch the output to mono and you will hear the difference. As soon as I hit the stereo function, the sound just jumped to the outsides of the speakers. It's amazing. Okay, now let's check out the lead track. I used my Sterling by Music Man Richardson 6 Cutlass. Now for my lead sounds, I always prefer a nice and chewy and malleable tone that is soft under the fingers. And that is something I find difficult to dial in on your typical metal amp. The typical metal amp has what I can only describe as a stiff mid-range that is kind of difficult to grab under the fingers. I don't know how else to describe it. So I was pleasantly surprised when I was able to dial in a nice, comfortable, and chewy lead tone on the 1111. Now let me show you what I did. Now looking at the front panel, it looks like your typical lead guitar settings. You know, full gain, tuck the bass a little bit, bump up the middle, bump up the treble, master set to taste, and then a little more presence and not much depth. Now I did raise the input gain slightly to make my lead lines sing and sustain better. But a lot of what affects the 1111's feel under the fingers lies in the back panel. So let's switch to that. Okay, so from here you have more knobs. And this set of knobs right here allows you to tweak the virtual power amp section a little bit more. So to get a chewier feel, I lessen the feedback a little bit, and then I up the bias to simulate the power amp tubes running hot. Now SAG controls the power amp compression, and I didn't put too much of that, just enough for it to be comfortable. And I didn't need more gain, so I put snarl at a minimum. Now the secret to the chewiness lies in the feedback knob, because as soon as I turn that up, that stiff mid-range is introduced back to the feel of the tone. Which is great if you're chugging along, nice and tight, but for singing and sustaining lead, I prefer the feedback to be lower. But the built-in noise gate also works really well, and I used it at a higher setting on the rhythms, just so that everything is nice and tight. But for leads, I want to get away with the lowest gate setting possible. Now, Otto Audio focused on the amp tone and feel for the 1111, so there aren't any other bells and whistles. No built-in reverb, no extra other effects and all that, which is great because now you can customize your own effects chain in your DAW. So for the lead sound, just real quick, you can see in my channel strip right here, I have the 1111 first in the chain, and then I used the Nambrini Audio analog rack delay just to give a bit of space to the sound. And then I did strap on the T-Rack Sunset Sound reverb plugin as well, but I did not use it in the track. Though, let me turn it on and you can hear it for yourself. It sounds pretty good. Now the Otto Audio 1111 is technically a single channel amp. There is no separate clean channel or a separate dirty channel. It's just one channel, which makes it even more amazing how well it cleaned up, and I was able to use it in that lo-fi chill hop vibe track. For that track, I used my Shabbat Leopard offset guitar with Lawler pickups. And as you've heard in that track, the Otto Audio responded nicely to all the different pickup combinations this guitar had, from the nice and bright lead circuit to the dark rhythm circuit. So that disproves the notion that if you use an amp plugin, it doesn't matter what kind of guitar you use because it will just sound the same. The Otto Audio 1111 lets your guitar's natural tone shine through, and it interacts nicely with it. Okay, now let me show you how I got the fire-breathing 1111 amp sim nice and clean. Like with my CHEWY lead patch, I built this preset up from scratch. And the first thing I did was to lower the gain. Now, lowering the preamp gain down to 0 does not cut the sound off, but it just, cleans it up. And to clean it up even further, I lowered the input gain to around -4 dB, and this is what we get. Now, I also have the T-Rack Sunset Strip reverb on. Let me turn it off so that you can hear the 1111 on its own. So that is the darker rhythm circuit. Let me switch to the bright lead circuit. And again, looking at the front panel, it looks like it's dialed to your typical clean sound. You know, bass at 5, tuck the middle a little bit, bump the treble up to 6, more presence and less depth. Now, let's check out the back. So the first thing I did was to turn off the noise gate. You don't need a noise gate for your clean sounds. That will let your tone breathe. Now, to make this clean tone feel comfortable under the fingers, I turned up the sag to the 2 o'clock position for some power amp compression. If I turn it down, the tone misses out on some bloom. The bias is also on the hotter side, positioned at around 12 o'clock. And with the T-Rack Sunset Strip Reverb, it's just a gorgeous tone. Towards the end of that track, I switched to a crunchier tone, and here's how I have that set up. I bumped up the preamp gain to around 10 o'clock. Now with this guitar, upping the preamp gain also introduced some spikiness, so I had to roll back the treble and the presence compared to the clean sound. This reminds me of, I don't know, dare I say it, a dumble tone. I love this. As soon as I switch to the lead circuit, there's that nice little, I don't know, high mid chirp to the tone. And it's hard to believe that this is coming from a plugin. Okay, now let me show you the back panel. So I have the sag turned up to the 3 o'clock position, just so that it's very comfortable and nice and pillowy to the touch. I also raised the bias, just to cook the virtual tubes. And like with my CHEWY lead tone, I turned the feedback almost all the way down. With the Nambrini audio analog delay and the T-Rack Sunset Strip Reverb, it's just a beautiful sound. Now, another thing that really impressed me with the 1111 is how well it responds to your playing dynamics. Every intention you put behind each note translates well. And that makes it even harder to believe that I'm playing through an amp plugin. Okay, now let me show you one last cool thing with the Otto Audio 1111 amp sim. If you like working in your DAW and you like drawing your MIDI automation, then you'll be glad to hear that all the 1111's parameters are MIDI controllable. Let me show you real quick. So here's a track. Let me pull up the automation. And as you can see in this drop-down menu, if you select the 1111 amp sim, you can draw continuous control and assign it to all of these parameters. And as I switch between parameters, you can see that I have drawn some automation commands on the Logic timeline. So what these automation moves will do is it will take my clean 1111 amp sim preset and morph it into a crunch tone. So if I position my cursor right here, I get my clean preset. And if I position the cursor past the tweaks, then I get the crunch. Now when I play back the project, I can go from clean to crunch without taking my hands off the guitar. Okay, there you have it. That is the amazing 1111 amp sim from Otto Audio. Big thanks to Otto Audio for sponsoring this video and for giving me free reign in presenting the 1111 amp sim to all you guys. Now, I really am impressed with the 1111 amp sim, but don't just take my word for it. Download the 14-day free trial and check it out for yourself. And if you decide to go for it and get the full version, then use the code Perfecto40 to get a 40% off discount. All the links will be in the video description. If you dug this video, please give it a thumbs up, like, hit subscribe if you haven't yet, and don't forget to ring that bell. And let me know what you think of the 1111 amp sim in the comments. Click on an end card to go watch another video, or you can go grab your guitar and play something. You all know the drill. Practice makes perfecto. Cheers, guys.